What if the reason you cannot seem to get ahead financially has less to do with your discipline than you think? What if the problem is not simply how much money you have, but what having too little money does to your attention? We are taught to see financial struggle as a math problem. Earn more, spend less, work harder, be more disciplined. But scarcity does something more complicated. When a resource becomes critically limited, your attention can become pulled toward that shortage. Money stops being just a number in an account. It becomes a constant mental calculation. How will I pay this? What happens if something breaks? Can I make it to Friday? Which bill can wait? And while your mind is solving the crisis in front of you, something else can become harder to protect. Your attention on everything beyond the crisis. That is where the scarcity loop begins. You can feel it in ordinary moments. It is standing at a checkout and calculating the total before the cashier finishes scanning. It is seeing a bill in the mailbox and leaving it unopened because you already know what it means. It is checking your bank balance again even though you checked it an hour ago. It is getting paid and feeling immediate relief, only to discover that the relief disappears almost as quickly as the money. From the outside, some of these decisions can look irrational. Someone buys something unnecessary while knowing another bill is coming. Someone accepts work that pays badly because the money arrives immediately. Someone delays an important expense because solving today's problem feels more urgent than preventing next month's. The easy explanation is bad discipline. But scarcity research suggests there is another layer. When resources are tight, the shortage itself can consume mental attention. And that attention has a cost. Think about your attention as limited bandwidth. You are already using it to remember appointments, answer messages, plan your day, make decisions, and hold information in working memory. Now add a persistent financial problem. How much is left in the account? When is rent due? What if the car needs another repair? Can I afford groceries? The problem does not politely wait in the background. It keeps asking for attention. Researchers Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir developed the idea that scarcity can create a bandwidth tax. The condition of having too little can consume mental resources that would otherwise be available for other decisions. That does not mean a person becomes less intelligent. It means part of their cognitive capacity is occupied by the shortage. And that distinction matters, because now the question changes. Maybe financial struggle is not only about knowing what the smart decision is. Maybe sometimes the mind is simply operating under a much heavier cognitive load. One of the most important findings behind this idea came from research involving Indian sugarcane farmers. The researchers studied the same people at different points in their financial cycle. Before harvest, when money was scarce, and after harvest, when they had received their income and were relatively more financially secure. The significance was not simply that poorer people performed differently from richer people. The same individuals showed different cognitive performance under different levels of financial pressure. That matters because it suggests the effect cannot be reduced to a permanent difference in intelligence between groups. The financial context itself was associated with changes in cognitive performance. The broader lesson is powerful. Scarcity can consume mental bandwidth, and when bandwidth is occupied, Other things may become harder. Planning, maintaining attention, holding information in mind, thinking beyond the immediate problem. That is why the scarcity loop is so dangerous. Not because scarcity makes someone incapable of thinking, but because it can make the present problem louder than the future. This is where another concept becomes important: tunneling. When something is scarce, attention can become pulled intensely toward it. If you are hungry, food dominates your attention. If you are short on time, the deadline dominates. And when money is scarce, immediate financial problems can become extremely difficult to ignore. That focus can be useful. It helps you solve today's emergency. But attention has a trade-off. The more intensely you focus on the immediate problem, the easier it can become to miss what is outside the tunnel. So the pattern becomes scarcity, then tunneling, then short-term solution, then future cost, then deeper scarcity. Imagine taking expensive short-term credit to solve an urgent bill. Today, the decision can feel completely rational. The immediate problem disappears, but the future problem becomes larger. Or imagine accepting every low-paying job because you need cash immediately. You survive this month, but have less time to build the skills, relationships, or opportunities that could improve the next year. The trap is not that the person cannot see the future. It is that the immediate problem keeps demanding the attention required to reach it. That is the scarcity loop. Imagine a freelance designer named David. He is talented. He knows his work has value, but his income is unpredictable. One month, he earns $6,000. The next month, almost nothing. Then a client offers him a rush project for $300. It is badly paid. He knows it, but the money arrives quickly, so he accepts. That job consumes most of his week. Now he has no time to update his portfolio, no time to improve his skills, no time to approach better clients. When another $300 opportunity appears, he takes that one too. And the cycle repeats. From the outside, someone might say, David needs better discipline. But look closer. Every immediate decision is understandable. The problem is the pattern created by thousands of understandable decisions. He keeps solving the present, and the present keeps consuming the future. So how do you interrupt the loop? The first mistake is assuming that more willpower is always the answer. When financial stress is consuming mental bandwidth, adding dozens of daily decisions can create even more cognitive demand. So instead of asking, how do I become stronger? Ask, how do I make the system require less of me? That is where slack becomes important. Slack is breathing room. It is the difference between reacting to every problem and having enough space to think before reacting. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to create a small gap between the emergency of today and the decisions that shape tomorrow. Start by removing unnecessary decisions. Automate what can reasonably be automated. Create simple systems for recurring bills. Separate essential spending from discretionary spending, so every purchase does not become a fresh negotiation. For debt, use a repayment system you can maintain instead of repeatedly relying on motivation. And create friction around impulsive spending. Remove stored payment information. Delay non-essential purchases. Give yourself a mandatory pause before buying something emotionally. The point is not to become obsessed with budgeting. It is to protect your attention. Every decision you remove from the daily mental battlefield creates a little more room to think, and that room matters. Because the objective is not merely to survive the next financial problem, it is to regain enough mental space to see beyond it. We usually think of wealth as something visible: a larger account, more assets, a better house, a better car. But financial stability has another form of value that is much harder to measure: cognitive freedom. The freedom to think about next year without being completely consumed by next week. The freedom to make a decision without every choice feeling like an emergency. The freedom to stop asking, "How do I survive this?" and start asking, "Where am I actually going?" Breaking the scarcity loop is not simply about changing a number. It is about creating enough space for your mind to see beyond the crisis. Because sometimes the first step toward building wealth is not learning how to make more money. It is learning how to stop letting scarcity consume the attention you need to build the future. This is MindForge Library Official.